Honourable members, I shall now propose the question for debate. The question is that a bill entitled An Act to Amend the Constitution of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago be now read a second time. Member for Diego Martin North East.
Mr. Speaker, regrettably, the contribution of the member for La Hoqueta Talparo was misleading, incomplete, and avoided one of the main purposes of the bill before the Parliament. I dare say deliberately. The problem with this bill is not the whole question of allowing jus sanguinis citizenship through the grandparent. That's not the problem with this bill. The problem with this bill is the inexplicable reason or the lack of reason for including clause 4B and clause 4C. The other problem is that this bill, when it becomes an act, because they have the majority, will not deal with the issue that the member put to the House, specifically with respect to our national football team. You see, FIFA for many years now has become aware of attempts by various countries to create better football teams by giving persons from other countries citizenship. And they have clamped down on it. And in order to be eligible, FIFA's eligibility rule with respect to representation of a country, in order to be eligible, one of your biological parents must have been born in the country that you wish to acquire citizenship of, and one of your biological grandparents, or one of your biological grandparents was born in that country. Clauses 4B and C remove that requirement. And the minister did not get into the Constitution, the meaning and the purport of Section 17 of our Constitution, did not at any time explain why we are now going to allow citizenship to persons who are born outside of Trinidad and Tobago, of parents who are citizens otherwise than by descent, because you're deleting those words from Section 17(3) of our Constitution. And I think it's important, because the minister didn't deal with it at all, I think it's important that we deal with it. So I will read Section 17(3). Section 17(3) of the Constitution allows a person born outside Trinidad and Tobago after the commencement of the Constitution to become a citizen of Trinidad and Tobago at the date of his birth, if at that date either of his parents is or was, but for his parents' death, a citizen of Trinidad and Tobago, otherwise than by descent. Now, those words, otherwise than by descent, are very important. Because in order to become a citizen by descent at the present time, your parent, one of your parents, must have been born in Trinidad and Tobago. Now, we have no objection to extending that to grandparents. Other countries are doing it. St. Vincent did it most recently. Jamaica has a bill before a joint select committee of its parliament in order to reform its constitution, in order to make Jamaica a republic. And in that bill before a joint select committee of the Jamaican parliament, again, there is a qualification that you can become a citizen of Jamaica if your parent or your grandparent was born in Jamaica. So the Jamaicans and the Vincentians, because the Vincentians amended their laws very, very recently, 2023, in fact, and again qualified the citizenship by descent to persons whose parents or grandparents were born in St. Vincent. And that is the Jamaican model as well. That is the current Trinidad and Tobago law. But now, by clause 4b, by deleting the words otherwise than and including the words, substituting the word including, and by deleting the words otherwise than by descent and substituting the words including by descent, you have created a situation where you can have endless levels of citizenship by descent. Because no longer does your parent, or if this thing is passed, your grandparent, have to be born in Trinidad and Tobago. Your parent could be born in Canada, in England, somewhere else. Your grandparent could be born in another country. And by virtue of clauses 4b and clause 4c, you now remove the requirement or the limitation that you can't get citizenship if you're born outside of Trinidad and Tobago unless one of your parents was born in Trinidad and Tobago. And we need to understand why you're doing this. Other countries don't do this. If you look at the United Kingdom, for example, they allow jus sanguinis. They allow citizenship by blood, but they limit it to a connection to a relative who was born in the United Kingdom. So in England, if you're born outside of England, to a person born in England, you can apply to be a citizen of the United Kingdom. Similarly, if you're born outside the United Kingdom, and your grandparent was born in the United Kingdom, you can apply to be a citizen of the United Kingdom. But if neither your parent nor your grandparent was born in England, you can't get it. In Jamaica, you can't get it. In St. Vincent, you can't get it. And this is our current law. And the government has not explained why you are removing this connection to the country. Because if you look at all the sporting federations, international sporting federations, whether it is World Athletics, which is the replacement for the International Amateur Athletic Federation, or World Swimming, which is the replacement for FINA, all of them are requiring a real connection to the country if you want to adopt the citizenship or acquire the citizenship of a country. They require you to have a real connection to that country by blood. In other words, your parent or your grandparent was born in that country. This bill gets rid of that. And I would like to know why. What are you up to? Why is it that you would now allow a Canadian, somebody born in Canada, to somebody who is not born in Trinidad and Tobago to become a citizen of Trinidad and Tobago? No other country does that. And I heard the minister speak about Italy, and he's uninformed. On the 2nd of April 2025, just a couple months ago, Italy decided it had enough of this, and it amended its law. And Italy is no longer allowing this endless line of succession going all the way back to your great-grandparents and so on. They're done with that. They're done with that. In 2025, the Italians changed its rules. And why did Italy change its rules? And I have here a quote from the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Italy, and I'm reading from an article dated 2nd April 2025 in Al Jazeera. And this is what the Minister of Foreign Affairs in Italy, Antonio Tajani, had to say. He said the system was outdated, where you could just go back to your great-grandparents and even further back in Italy. And the change in law was designed to crack down on abusers who become Italian to overcome travel restrictions. It's clear to me this bill is not to help any footballer, because to represent Trinidad and Tobago in football, Your parent or your grandparent has to be born in Trinidad and Tobago. To represent Trinidad and Tobago in athletics, Olympics, your parent or your grandparent has to be born in Trinidad and Tobago. So what on earth is going on here where you're removing that requirement for the parent or the grandparent to be born in Trinidad and Tobago? And this is what the Italian minister had to say. Persons were acquiring Italian citizenship to overcome travel restrictions. Italy's passport ranks 3rd in the world for visa-free or visa or on arrival travel, and the Trinidad and Tobago passport. Any diplomat will tell you, any head of mission of Trinidad and Tobago will tell you, the Trinidad and Tobago passport is a very powerful passport. You can enter all of the Schengen states, for example, the EU countries, without a visa. So what this bill is going to do is going to allow somebody born outside Trinidad to somebody born outside Trinidad, from somebody born outside Trinidad, to get a Trinidad and Tobago passport and all the benefits that that Trinidad and Tobago passport brings. It does not help anybody who wants to play football for Trinidad and Tobago, or anybody who wants to compete in the Olympic Games in track and field for Trinidad and Tobago, because those two federations very intelligently have made it mandatory that there must be a direct connection to the country parent or grandparent. So the person here who's born outside Trinidad and Tobago, to somebody born outside Trinidad and Tobago, to somebody born outside Trinidad and Tobago, who now will get citizenship through this, cannot represent Trinidad and Tobago in football or in athletics or in other major sports. So the government has to come clean. What are you up to? Why do you have these additional clauses here? What's going on? What's going on? Is it voter padding? What's going on? Why are you creating a category of citizenship that is almost unknown in the rest of the world? Even in India, to become an Indian citizen, your parent or grandparent must be born in India. And don't confuse that with overseas citizenships. That's an entirely different thing. That does not make the person a full citizen of India. That is simply giving somebody the opportunity to live and work in India, but they don't get full citizenship of India. So don't confuse that. You want to be an Indian citizen, you were born outside India, your parent or your grandparent must have been born in India. England, same thing. United States, same thing. So why is Trinidad and Tobago now going to be an outlier where neither your parent nor your grandparent has to be born in Trinidad and Tobago for you to get citizenship by descent? What are they up to? What are they up to? As I said, is it to encourage voter padding? Is it to give citizenship to persons who will have no connection whatsoever to Trinidad and Tobago? Persons who never come to Trinidad and Tobago? Persons whose parent and grandparent were not born in Trinidad and Tobago? What is that all about? And it could keep going. You could pass it on to your children. Because no longer is there a requirement for your parent or your grandparent to be born in Trinidad and Tobago in order to get citizenship under Section 17.3 of the Constitution. So what is the government up to? Why are you doing this? Why is it that every other country wants to reach out to the diaspora? The minister's fine-sounding words, you know, let me see what you say. Unlock the true potential of our people. Wherever Trinbagonian heart beats abroad. What is this all about? What is this all about? He said the bill is deliberate and strategic in intent. Nonsense. It's not neither strategic nor deliberate if it wants to allow persons to represent Trinidad and Tobago in sport, because you're going to get trapped by the jus soli rule, which is by birth, citizenship by birth, the jus soli rule. You're going to get trapped there. And you see these federations, they're not stupid, you know. They know what countries do. It all started with Qatar, for example. that was going to have a national team comprised of persons who had no connection whatsoever to Qatar. Qatar plenty money. So they're going all over the world looking for talent and naturalizing people. And FIFA said, we're not allowing that. You could only have a players on your national football team if their parent or their grandparent was born in Qatar. That started it many, many years ago. And that's not going to stop. In fact, it's going to get worse as time goes by. And as more and more countries attempt to get around the birth rule and try to bring in people, I can assure you that right now, not a single person would qualify to play football for Trinidad and Tobago if they are born outside of Trinidad and Tobago to somebody who is born outside of Trinidad and Tobago and therefore became a citizen by descent because their grandparent was born in Trinidad and Tobago. I can assure it's not going to happen. So we on this side, Mr. Speaker, we want to know what is behind the purport. What is the purport and intent of 4B and 4C? Why do countries limit citizenship by descent? I mean, it should be obvious. Obviously, to manage immigration, to uphold national identity, and that's the most important thing. The minister made a lot of noise about the diaspora and outreaching and national identity and connecting with people and so on. But you limit citizenship by descent to uphold national identity, to prevent potential security risks that arise from dual citizenship. So why are you doing this? Why are you creating a new category of citizenship where neither your parent nor your grandparent has to be born in Trinidad and Tobago? And that is the whole point here. We have no objection to grandparents being added to the Constitution. No big thing. Other countries doing it. We have no problem with that. If your grandparent born here, fine, sure. Extend the lineage, extend the generations that way. But we cannot agree to 4B and 4C, and I have sent amendments, which I expect will be circulated soon, to delete clauses 4B and 4C. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.